Hello. Okay, today what we want to do is learn a little bit more about how to be compassionate with ourselves, including all the different parts of ourselves and parts that are uncomfortable to be with. And we won't get all of this today. There's a lot of information, two fairly large concepts. So the idea here is take in what you can. We're basically just planting seeds to see what will grow. So the way that this was explained to me, or my interpretation of the way that this was explained to me, is that we have internal parts. Let me share my screen so you know what I'm talking about. Internal parts. These are parts of us that developed from a need for stability. There would have been a time in our life when we were developing that we needed stability. And the way I think of it, inner parts, these internal parts, they are characters inside of us that decide our behavior. There's lots of them. They can be conflicting. I myself have a part that wants to be very independent, doesn't want help from anybody, and it makes it really hard to ask for help. I have another part that wants to throw up his hands and let everybody else take care of everything and take care of him. I'm learning that both of those parts are actually trying to be helpful in their own way for their own reasons. So parts, these internal parts developed in order to help us survive. In our upbringing, we might have needed to act in a certain way in order to survive while we were in the care of a dangerous caregiver or in a dangerous situation. So as we developed, these parts of us learned that the way to stay safe in life was to protect ourselves somehow. And if those parts never learned that they were safe, that they are safe now, they might continuously be trying to keep us safe in the present moment. For me, there was a moment when I was 4 years old when my cousin was playing a prank on me, and the prank that he played on me was that he was mortally wounded. Okay, so I remember, I have a memory of running across the room, screaming and wanting to help. I needed to save him. It was my job. In that traumatizing moment, suddenly a part split off from me. It arrived. It showed up on the scene, and he wanted to help in that moment. No 4-year-old should be in charge of saving people, but in that moment, I couldn't lose my cousin. There was nobody else around. So me as a 4-year-old, I had to do something. I had to help. I had to be the one to save my cousin. Nowadays, that part of me is mostly not helpful. I don't have to be saving people, but I do often feel like other people's well-being is my responsibility. And what I'm learning is that that piece of that 4-year-old part of me needs to know that I appreciate him for trying to help. That is sort of that has been an uncomfortable process for me to be with, because in the past, anytime somebody in my community died, um, I would really struggle. I wouldn't be able to, I would have a really hard time going and being with the family, or going to the funeral. And I had a lot of shame and guilt about that. But I have learned that part of the reason that I was feeling that way is because this 4-year-old little savior part of me felt he had failed. And so with the discomfort that I felt around going to be around people who had lost somebody, that was shame. So now that piece of that 4-year-old part of me, um, he sometimes still tries to help. He is still offering his help. Um, in the present moment, this feeling still comes that I have to do something. And if I fail, then that is a shameful thing. So when he comes and he tries to help, what I don't want to do is say no. Have you ever asked somebody if you can help them? You've offered them help and they say, no, I don't want your help. How does that feel? So I think of this little part of myself as a little young person from inside of me offering help. So I want to be gracious. I think about how I want to respond to that, and I'm learning to say thank you for offering help. I'm not rejecting this little guy's help, but I'm being thankful that he's trying to help. So I have another part of me that feels sad and lonely. He has a lot of sadness and he doesn't want to bother anybody with it. For me, hanging out with him feels shameful because as a kid, sadness wasn't well tolerated by the people I was growing up around. So it left me isolated. If I was sad, then I would be alone. And now feeling sad feels shameful. So it's kind of like shame stands in front of sadness so that I don't have to feel the sadness. I feel shame instead. And what I've noticed that I do is if I am spending a lot of time playing video games or scrolling through Instagram and I'm checked out in a way, then what seems to be happening is there's this defense. It's a defensive action that's happening, and it is protecting me from shame, and the shame is protecting me from sadness and loneliness. So if we look here, that fits into the change triangle. So if we take a core emotion, for instance, grief. So grief is partly made of sadness. If part of me didn't feel like it was okay to feel sad, then shame or anxiety or guilt might come and stand in front of it and go, nope, you don't have to feel that. You're going to feel this other feeling instead. And instead of feeling that, like if that's showing up, I might do something. I might choose to do something to just avoid having to notice that. So for me, it can be video games, can be work, it can be eating. There's lots of things that lots of people do. Some people do retail therapy. Some people are at the casino, using alcohol or partying and that kind of thing. And so depending on how we do those things, how we are behaving, it could be that it is a defense and it is protecting us from feeling shame, which in turn is protecting us from feeling sadness or one of the other core emotions. So in the moment of recognizing a defense, we don't want to shame ourselves. We want to learn to be more curious. We want to see if we can be compassionate. That takes a lot of courage to be able to do. So the next idea to go home with is kind of to think of what are some things that we do as defenses? What do I do to move away from hard feelings? What are my defense mechanisms, my coping strategies? And again, this isn't the point, we're not pointing out flaws in ourselves. We are recognizing when a part of us, an internal part of us, shows up and tries to defend us from feeling something that has been too hard to be with. And eventually, as we learn to develop our relationship with all of our parts and all of the things that they're protecting us from, we hopefully will learn to be with ourselves, our real true selves, with all of our core emotions. It might not happen instantly. Thank you for watching. See you later.